Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. I am Andy Hall. Last time I checked, that's on my license at least. I hope everyone's doing well. Let's start off with something funny.
Do you think pigeons fall in love?
Yeah, they must do.
Penguins mate for life, you know. I wonder what it's like to be a penguin.
Probably a nice, simple life.
Must suck having to waddle everywhere,
Yeah,
though.
that would suck.
Wait.
I don't remember driving that last 5 minutes at all.
What if we drove through a red light?
Well, don't say
What if
that.
we were speeding and we get a ticket?
No, we were definitely driving the speed limit.
Imagine if we hit a human.
What?
Or worse.
A child?
No, an animal.
Oh my goodness.
Terrible person.
You were the one distracting me talking about penguins.
Penguins are pretty great,
They
though.
are pretty... No, stop it.
You could adopt one and sponsor it.
I'm going to start driving alone.
Oh, consciousness is like this Swiss cheese, isn't it? People think that consciousness is like this monolithic structure. And a lot of our thoughts about mind, about being, they've been adulterated and by Christianity, right? By this concept that we have an entire self, an entire unit of soul, when the brain, it's like this hodgepodge of pieces, and the brain just does things, and you don't know when you're driving. You know, you could have been driving for 20 minutes. You could have been driving for an hour, and you just kind of fade out, go on autopilot. Oh, yeah. Everyone in the chat, how's it going? Brain bug. I'm going to make a confession. Probably not the last confession. I'll make the first confession. I was just listening to or watching Tobin Templeman, who's here in the chat, on his channel, a little "I Can Be Good." Is that the name of the song? I don't think that's the name of the song, but I was just on his channel before coming over here and watching his latest rough draft. Well, it is a draft. It didn't sound that rough to me, but I was just watching one of his songs. It was pretty cool. Scott Duke, good morning. Mr. Duke. I do look like I have been mistaken for because of this, because of how I look. I've been mistaken for a Republican many times. It doesn't make me feel good at all. I think that just gets me angry. Derek Cruz, good morning, sir. Jess M. The name Disappointed Cat. Oh, why, thank you very much. All cats are disappointed. They aren't dogs. They are not dogs. They are not dogs at all. Dr. Mordecai, glad to see that you're here. All right. So, I'm going to make a couple of more confessions here, or I'm going to give you an update before we get into the news cycle. But what are the news stories you're going to ask me that we're covering today? Let's see. Baby formula, baby food. Yes, it's important. Baby food it's important. Geez, I can't even read my own freaking handwriting. Georgia on my mind. Nothing good about Georgia, by the way. This is not a positive Georgia story. Amazon unions. Good news on the marijuana front in New York State. And the difference between Joe Biden's press conference and a Donald J. Trump press conference. Going to watch a little video and compare the two things. Compare the two. Did I say hello to Samuel Gray? I don't know if I did or not. I'm going to say good morning now, Samuel Gray. All right. So what are we doing? Oh, so I have an announcement that the cat update. As many of you know, I'm looking for a cat. My girlfriend's looking at a cat. She texted me a picture of a cat that is up for adoption in a nearby shelter, and we're going to make an appointment for Lump. This is Lump. We're going to go check him out. He's 8 years old, male cat. He seems to be, from his statistics, good for us. And so we're going to make an appointment to go visit him if he's still available. People have been adopting pets quite a bit during the pandemic. But we're going to check out Lump and see. I don't think it's Lumpy. I think his name is just Lump. And we're not going to change his name. He's grown accustomed to Lump. He is Lump. And I think it'd be great to have a cat called Lump. So we're going to go check out Lump. Make an appointment at least, because all these appointments, pet adoption appointments, they're, you just can't walk in there due to COVID. He does have a disappointed look. He does have a disappointed look, Scott Duke. I think he'd be an ideal addition to the team. I think he'd be an ideal addition to the morning show. All right. So what are we doing here? Let's do some funny stuff. Actually, the Lump needs to be the mascot. I think if we're able to get Lump, I think he would be the official mascot of the show, to tell you the truth. I think that's what we'll have Lump, because he'd be the ideal mascot, I think. Let's see. So that's my update about the cats, about the cat. And in terms of funny memes, these are funny. This is some comedy here, but it is an important, yes, I accentuated the last T there, important message about grifters. 3 things you will never see a conspiracy truthers say. I didn't make up that meme, but I saw it and I found it and I thought I'd share it. So what are the 3 things you'll never see conspiracy truthers say? My research is biased and cherry-picked from questionable sources. Alex Jones being the poster child for truthers. Truthers, I think, is just a really interesting way you can rebrand liars, to tell you the truth. I have looked at the counter-argument and I have changed my position based on new, verified evidence. Once again, this is number 2 of the 3 things you will not hear a conspiracy theorist say. I don't think I've ever heard a conspiracy theorist say that they have changed their opinion. They have just drilled down despite whatever evidence pops up. And what's the 3rd thing? I am not an expert in any field, and I admit I was wrong. You know, I like it when I am wrong, and I just happen to be wrong a lot, so I'm very pleased with myself on a regular basis. But the thing is, I like hearing people when they say that they're wrong and why they think they were wrong, right? Because it's intellectual honesty. And in a world of hucksters, grifters, truthers, it's nice to see honesty. So when people admit that they're wrong and have some idea about why they're, and if they're honest, if they're honestly trying to figure out why they're wrong, that's always pleasant for me. That's always something that makes me think, oh, maybe it isn't all hopeless. Maybe it's not all hopeless. All right, before we get into baby food and toxic heavy metals, and yeah, I'm going to check out the chat one more time. Hey, girlfriend's here. We're talking about Lump, girlfriend. I don't know if you saw that or heard. I was showing our potential cat to everyone. The President's of the United States song, very nice. All right. All right, so let's go to, now you would think, everyone, baby food. How long have we had babies? We've had babies for a long time, right? Digital Bookworm, good to see you. We've had babies for a long time. We've had a long time to figure out how to not F up baby food. I know this is a radical thought. We've had a long time to figure out what not to put in baby food. But maybe not. New legislation would reduce toxic heavy metals in baby food. Yes, apparently there's a good amount of lead, toxic metal, and other toxic metals in baby food. Something to feel good about, right? From CNN, all links in the description. U.S. lawmakers announced they will propose a new bill to limit the amount of heavy metals contained in baby food after a congressional investigation found that food manufacturers had knowingly sold baby food to parents that contained dangerous levels of lead, mercury, arsenic, and cadmium. That's quite a list. You know, you'd be in trouble with lead alone. But mercury, arsenic, and cadmium also thrown in there. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to go through the story a little bit more before my little rant. I'm going to try. We'll see how long if I can get through the whole story. Let's see. Many of these all these toxic metals have been linked to cancer, chronic disease, and neurotoxic effects, but it's the damage that can be done to the developing baby's brain that makes baby food toxicity a critical concern. From conception through the age of 2, babies' brains are extremely sensitive to neurotoxic chemicals, said Jane Houlihan, the National Director of Science and Health for Healthy Babies' Bright Futures, a coalition of advocates committed to reducing babies' exposure to neurotoxic chemicals. The proposed legislation, called the Baby Food Safety Act of 2021, is scheduled to be submitted to Congress Friday. Hey, that's today. It's the offspring of Democratic Rep. Raha. I'm not going to pronounce that last name. I'm going to Krishna Morty. I don't know, of Illinois. Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota. Good job, Amy. Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois, and Democratic Rep. Tony Cardenas of California. If passed, the planned legislation would impose strict requirements on baby food manufacturers to regularly test and verify their foods under a new low limit for heavy metals. No more than 10 parts per billion of inorganic arsenic, 5 parts per billion of cadmium or lead, and 2 parts per billion of mercury. Cereal products, however, could contain 15 parts per billion of inorganic arsenic and 10 parts per billion of cadmium and lead. And I know that sounds like gibberish for many of us, but let's see what that actually means. The legislation would then require the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services to lower the levels even more within 2 years, set regulations in place within 3 years, and then review the regulatory limits every 5 years to consider what should be lowered further. The Secretary could also recall infant and toddler food defined as of 36 months of age if it was determined to contain toxic heavy. Now that's the thing, right, about legislation. You can make any law in the world, but there's no way to enforce it. If there's no incentive to make the targets of the legislation follow it, in this case, the baby food manufacturers, then it's useless. So it's good that there's some teeth to this. Since many of these metals are in the earth in which crops are grown, the bill also earmarks $50 million for the National Academy of Sciences to research agricultural ways to minimize heavy metals. In addition, the bill would also require the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention to implement a campaign to educate parents and others on the dangers of heavy metals. Let's see, baby food manufacturers would be required to publicly make available a webpage biannual report summarizing the results of monitoring with respect to such facility and infant and toddler foods. Now, you may think to yourself, hey, maybe I can just get organic food, right? If I can get organic food for my baby, will that help? No. I'm going to look for that little panel right here. Here it is, right here at the bottom, Whether the baby food was organic or not did not matter, the subcommittee found. Levels of toxic metals were still high. I just want to say this again. I just want to jump to this point because apparently I couldn't contain myself. Whether the baby food, last sentence, buried here, whether the baby food was organic or not did not matter, the subcommittee found. Levels of toxic metals were high. Doesn't matter if you're spending 3 times the amount for organic baby food as against the regular baby food, you're still going to have toxic levels of heavy metals in that baby food. Okay, so that's what the legislation, and all right, I guess I'm going to do a little rant here. And you know how it's going to look in the Senate, right? You know how it's going to look in the Senate. It's going to be a strictly partisan vote. Because how many Republicans want to get behind safe baby food? Who in this day and age, it's going to get to the Senate. You might get 1 or 2 Republican senators just say, well, maybe we should do some kind of regulation about baby food, make it a little safer. The vast majority of them will be like, no, heavy metal's good. We hated it in the 80s and wanted to ban it. Heavy metal. See, that's a play on words. So what can parents do right now to protect their kids against heavy metals in their baby food? I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about what to do. Until the legislation is passed and regulatory requirements are in place, parents can take action to reduce their child's exposure to heavy metals. And speaking as a parent, gosh darn it, it would have been nice to have this information when my kids were young, right? It just would have been nice. It would have been nice to have this information. It would have been nice to have had this legislation in place, like maybe 15 years ago, 16, 8. Well, how old's my oldest? 19? Going to be 19 soon? It would have been nice to have had it 20 years ago. Breathe, Andy. Start with the most contaminated. At the top of the Healthy Babies Bright Futures list, rice cereal. This is the most contaminated. All right, so this is the most contaminated stuff. It's rice cereal, rice-based puffs, rice-based snacks, and rice rusks for teething. Biscuits. Eliminate altogether or feed these foods rarely. So rice apparently contains a lot of heavy metals. There are also better choices for toddler snacks than rice puffs or even the ubiquitous round cereal so frequently given as finger food, which showed up on the Healthy Babies neurotoxic list. That's interesting. We're recommending other snacks like apples and bananas, cheese, grapes, peaches, and yogurt, Houlihan told CNN in a prior interview. Feed a variety of foods. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends feeding baby a variety of healthy foods. Focusing on one food at a time is one reason exposures add up dangerously for infants. Avoid juice. Holy effing Christ. How many parents, right? We have parents here. We have grandparents here. How many times have we given our kids juice? Avoid juice. Apple, grape, and other juices are a significant source of heavy metals for children. Not because the levels are high as rice products, Houlihan has said, but because children drink so much juice. By replacing juice with tap water, Houlihan said, a parent could reduce a child's exposure to toxic metals by 68 freaking percent. All right, the freaking wasn't in there, but I thought I would just have to put it in there. 68%. No juice, water. Prepare carefully. Carrots and sweet potatoes are on the list of the most contaminated, according to the Healthy Babies report. By replacing those with a variety of vegetables, a parent can reduce their baby's risk by 73%. An analysis found. So what have we learned? That there is a bill coming up for a vote. We've learned that baby food, particularly rice-based baby food, is just full of lead, mercury, cadmium, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's organic baby food or regular everyday baby food. The organic baby food has just as high levels as the regular garden variety baby food. Holy F me. And all right, so I know I've said it before and I'll say it again. We've known that lead is dangerous for centuries. The Romans knew that lead was dangerous. People who walked into the lead mines to mine lead would not walk out the same way after working there for a period of time. So what does brain damage look like in people? Well, it's lack of impulse control. It's lack of higher executive cognitive functionings like impulse control, like being able to plan out, a multi-stage act, a multi-stage plan. It's the inability to synthesize new information. It's the inability to think critically. It sounds like, a lot of QAnon people might have had a lot of toxic baby food. That's all I'm saying. All right, 43 comments I have to get in here. Hey, James Henry, how you doing? Let's see. Pre-wash your rice. I think it's already in there, brother. I think it's already in there. I like what you did though. I see the humor though about pre-washing your rice. Yeah, that juice. It's when I had really young kids, I always watered down their juice, so that makes me feel a little bit better because just having juice now, juice unadulterated with alcohol, it's just really sweet for me personally. So let's see. Capitalism at its worst, zero ethics. Exactly. Oh yeah, simply secular. This is true. There is a there is a maximum level of rodent feces in parts per million, which are permitted in baby food. Yeah. Well, this is the thing. When you don't have a functioning federal government, which the United States of America typically doesn't have, even under democratic administrations, we don't have a functioning federal government. One of the reasons, of course, is the filibuster. Another reason, late stage, there's just so many reasons that we just go over every single day on this show about why we don't have a functioning federal government, or we don't have a functioning government really at many times the state level or the federal level. Let's see what else we got going on. Brain bug. Cadmium eggs are only seasonal. Well, they are evergreen, my friend, in rice products. Thank you, Scott Duke, for asking people to hit the like button. I do appreciate that. Oh, okay. All right. I think I've been all right. I think I'm up to date with everything. This is great. So hopefully we'll have less toxic heavy metals in baby food soon. Until then, this is the greatest country on earth, the America, the greatest place on earth. Until then, parents, you're on your own. Until then, you're on your own. Once again, links are in the description, everyone, in case you want to look at the entire story, or in case you want to send it to one of your friends who has a young child. Maybe that would be helpful. All right. Breathe, Andy. You got to breathe. All right. So, toxic baby food. What's the next happy story? Oh, Georgia. Voting stuff in Georgia. Georgia's new law suppressing the vote is a victory for Trump, from CNN. Yes. Let's go on with this bit of happy joy news. Former President Donald Trump's campaign of lies about a stolen election just delivered a huge victory with a new Georgia law that could suppress the votes of many of the citizens who helped eject him from the White House. Republican state lawmakers rushed through the broad law Thursday, making it harder to vote that disproportionately targets Democratic and Black voters in the battleground vital to 2020 election and future presidential and congressional contests. The move confirms the Peach State as the epicenter of the fight for American democracy that raged through Trump's presidency and during the insurrection he incited against the U.S. Capitol, and now threatens to taint future elections as Republicans in multiple states pursue new laws to limit voting. You see, during the pandemic, states broadened days, times, accessibility for voters, right? It made sense. However, it makes sense to keep those rules in, because you see, that's how you get a functioning society. That's how you get a functioning government, is providing many opportunities for people to actually vote. Republicans hate that, though, because they know they can't win legit elections. After leaving office, Trump demanded the Republican state legislatures pass laws to limit mail-in voting to help prevent courts from weighing in on electoral disputes. Under his massive popularity in the GOP, the former president has made the acceptance of his false conspiracy theories about voter fraud in 2020 a litmus test for Republican candidates seeking his support in upcoming primary elections. The Georgia bill is only one of the GOP efforts in multiple states, including many crucial electoral battlegrounds, to hold back a diverse demographic tide in cities that favor Democrats, which critics see as an attempt to cement minority rule in the U.S. Minority rule? Are they talking? It's funny how they say. If I was the editor, I would point this out. I wouldn't say it's there to cement minority rule. It is, in a sense, but I would say maybe white suburban minority rule, possibly, or white nationalist rule. I think that's more appropriate than just saying these voting laws are there to restrict or to help minority rule of the country. I would say it's more about the idea about restricting voting accessibility. It's more about promoting white nationalism. I think that would be a better way of phrasing it. Iowa has already passed a measure to limit absentee balloting and voting hours. Texas is Texas is taking steps of cut voting hours and absentee balloting in big Democratic cities like Houston. New voting laws are being pushed by Republicans in another swing state. Trump lost Arizona. So there's a new, we know about I think we've talked about this the other day, right? About the voting rights bill that's going through the House into the Senate. And as we all know, there's no way that the Democrats will actually be able to pass that with the filibuster as it is. We saw on the news yesterday, the show yesterday, about how Senate Republicans may have to do a talking filibuster if they wish to filibuster this bill on the voting rights. That would be entertaining. I don't know how useful it would be. It would be better just to get rid of the filibuster altogether. It would just be better just to throw it away. The new law in Georgia requires more stringent voter verification requirements for absentee ballots, allows state officials to take over election boards, and limit ballot drop boxes that make it easier for people to vote. The law allows any Georgian to make unlimited challenges to voter registrations. Holy crap. And incredibly, makes it a misdemeanor crime for anyone to offer food and water to voters in long lines to cast ballots. Okay, usually I only have to rub my head with one hand, but this is me rubbing my head with two hands. So it's going to be a misdemeanor for anyone to offer food or water to voters stuck in long lines. Black voters hampered by the restrictions of voting in urban areas have often found themselves lining up for hours to vote in inclement weather. The clear targeting of African-American voters in Georgia and elsewhere recalls some of the ugliest racial episodes in America's past and is fueling claims of open Republican racism. So you can't even give people food or water who've been in line for hours to vote. You can't even do that. It's going to be a crime. It's going to be a crime in Georgia if this bill, the bill's already been signed. So I guess that's, so you got to bring your own snacks. I guess that's it. You got to bring your own snacks when you're in the voting line for hours in Georgia. All right, let's see. Well, that's a good way of looking at it. Imaginary God, glad to see you here. Yep. Let's see what else. As a Canadian, it is wrong that I anticipate Jerry Springer, Steve Wilkos jumping out to surprise Ted Cruz with a lie detector result every single time I see him talking on TV. I think that would be interesting. I would, if I had enough money, I would have someone just harass Ted Cruz with a lie detector, right? And we know that lie detector tests aren't really useful, that they're not accepted in court, but still, it's a nice thought. It's a nice thought. Let's see. Well, Jesse Bear raised an interesting point. Fresh foods are very expensive compared to junk food. It's almost as if the system is there to make us physically sick and brain damaged when you think about it, right? To eat non-toxic food, it is far more expensive. And to tell you the truth, just because you're buying the quote unquote organic food doesn't mean you're still not going to get poisoned. All right, let's see. I think I've caught up with everything. Have I caught up everything in the chat? I think so. Yeah, that's good policy, Jesse Beer. Why I blended my food or cut it up for my kids. And I like my money. Indeed. All right. So halftime show. Let's do halftime show. I hit buttons here. Oh, this is interesting. All right. Now look at James Henry. My advice to young men of color is the only way you can combat racism is your own behavior. You want, I would say that hey, Blazing, I am all about activism, obviously, and a big, Black Lives Matter supporter. And yeah, you can do everything right. You can do everything right. But if you're in a crooked system, you're still going to get the crap end of the stick. That's what I think. I think you're going to get the crap end of the stick. Even if you do everything right, you can still end up getting shot in the back 7 times. What a strange segue for something for the halftime show. That was a strange segue, but this is a strange show, and we're going to get stranger.
Corporate meeting translation guide. There's a lot on my plate. I don't want to do that. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't want to do that, but with the word bandwidth instead. To piggyback off that, I have nothing to contribute, so I'm just going to repeat what you said. Let's circle back on this. Shut up. Let's table this discussion. Shut up. Let's put a pin in this. Dude, shut up. Just to recap, I wasn't paying attention and want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I'll run it up the flagpole. No, I won't. It's on my radar. Haha, no, it's not. We have decided to pivot. You suck.
I love the pivot comment. I love the pivot. Well, we've decided to pivot away from you and whatever you're saying right now. I've never worked in a corporate environment. I worked for a rather large nonprofit for a number of years. I managed a few houses, and even that small of my time in a legitimate environment, work environment, I'm like, wow, this is all messed up. I have stories, as I'm sure all of you do. Hey, Blazing Wizard Pope, thank you. I always forget to shill myself, to ask for shekels, dollars, pounds, euros, pennies. I guess maybe the system can take rubles too. I don't know, but thank you for your contribution. Yeah, it is appreciated. Every penny counts. Slade Camara, glad to see you here. All right. So that was the halftime show. What do we got next? All right, I can read my handwriting. So it's about Amazon. Bernie Sanders, right? Every single time. I'm going to make another confession. This is not the first confession of the show. This is going to be my second confession. When Stan Lee was still alive, Stan Lee, one of the pillars of Marvel Comics, Marvel Universe, whenever I saw Stan Lee show up, when he was alive, show up in one of the Marvel movies, I would cheer in the theater like a big effing geek. Because if you can't celebrate Stan Lee, who the F can you celebrate? So that being said, whenever I see a story about Bernie Sanders, who knows how long we're going to have Bernie Sanders for, to tell you the truth. Who knows how long? He's not a young dude, right? He's not a young dude. And so whenever I see a story like this of Bernie Sanders sticking it to someone or sticking it to the other side, I get a smile on my face. All right, so let's check out the story here. Bernie Sanders putting it to, which company is he putting it to? I'm glad you asked. It's Amazon. Bernie Sanders leads delegation to Alabama to boost Amazon union drive. And here you see people from a union supporting the drive here. I'm moving my cursor, and I know you all can't see that, but I guess I'm highlighting it from my own brain. But yes, there's a big union drive in Alabama. Bernie Sanders is heading down there with a bunch of other folks to support them. A gaggle. I'm going to use a gaggle. Federal lawmakers have been trickling to Alabama to cheer on workers hoping to unionize at a Amazon Inc. warehouse in Bessemer, Alabama, cementing the union drive as the highest profile American labor fight in recent history. The labor push has seen a stream of Democrats, but even won the support of some Republicans who are keen to posit their party as one that backs the working class. That's a joke. And whose top leaders are also hostile to Amazon Jeff Bezos. That's what it more is that a lot of Republicans don't like Jeff Bezos. On Friday, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, one of the most influential progressive lawmakers in American politics, is scheduled to appear alongside a small set of other liberal figures at a public event to meet Amazon workers looking to unionize. Joe Biden also suggested support for unionization, albeit rather opaquely. It's like Joe Biden is some kind of watered down. If Bernie Sanders is whole milk, then Joe Biden is water. Not even milk, just water. Meanwhile, Senator Marco Rubio, Florida, a high-profile Republican, recently penned an op-ed stating that he is standing with those at Amazon Bessemer Warehouse today. The only reason why Rubio, little Marco, is supporting Amazon workers is because he hates Jeff Bezos. And that's basically what, to boil down his op-ed, that's what he said. It's like, I dislike Jeff Bezos, so I support workers. I don't really support workers as much as I dislike Jeff Bezos. It's unusual for a union vote to attract this much attention from out-of-state lawmakers, but that's just what happened among workers at the e-commerce behemoth in one of the most conservative states in the country. The outcome could trigger a chain reaction of similar efforts across the country. Fingers and toes crossed with that. Let's see. I'll cut down to the last paragraph. Among the 800,000, none of them are unionized. These are Amazon workers in the warehouse. But a union vote in Alabama has spurred supporters in other parts of the country to encourage local Amazon employees to try and unionize as well. The push has also sparked a larger discussion about the work conditions in which Amazon warehouse employers work. And what's that? Are we pivoting to another story right now? I know we just had a video about, but we are going to just segue into another story. And I'm not doing this justice, about the working conditions in Amazon, but it's good just to highlight exactly what workers at Amazon face. And the links are in the description, by the way. I'm not a robot. Amazon workers condemn unsafe, grueling conditions at warehouse. This story focuses on a warehouse in Staten Island. So what are some of the issues at Amazon warehouses? Let's see. Amazon workers would like to have would like to consolidate their two 15-minute breaks into a 30-minute one. Workers say it can take up to 15 minutes just to work to and from the warehouse break room. Workers also called for Amazon to provide more reliable public transit services to the warehouse. They also called attention to reports of high injury rates at the facility there, which were found to be 3 times the national average for warehouses based on the company's injury reports to OSHA. Now, this is interesting. They took a look at a person who works at the warehouse, and this is just an example of what happens over there. So this person has to deal with packages coming down on a conveyor belt. However, sometimes when packages, especially envelopes with liquid, burst on a conveyor belt, this poor person often has to stop the belt to clean up the mess, but they are still expected to hit her hourly rate. So what happens is that she's working the conveyor belt, packages come down occasionally, and you got to get like a lot of packages done within an hour, packages per minute. So for whatever reason, improper packaging, sometimes just crazy stuff. So it comes down, the package lands, liquid everywhere. They have to shut down the conveyor belt. They have to clean everything up, but they're still expected to meet their quota. And when they don't meet their quota, they get written up. She is still expected to hit her hourly rate. She's been written up once for missing her rate because several of the incidents happened in the same week. People get fired regularly, she said. It takes 2 or 3 write-ups depending on the severity, and you can get fired for anything. That's what life is like here in the United States of America. You can pretty much get fired for anything unless you're in a union. And even being in a union here doesn't always protect you. And we know from my European friends, Canadian friends know this probably, and many people here in the States know that American rights, workers' rights here in the States are freaking horrible. No. B, glad to see that you're here. You used to work at an Amazon warehouse. So what were your experiences at the warehouse? Jesse Beer. Didn't someone pass from a heart attack at an Amazon warehouse and they made people work around the body? Oh, was that another horrible company? I don't know. I do not know. So B, was the conditions over at the Amazon warehouse that you worked how was that? Was it bad? I mean, it seems like you're not working there anymore, but I think you just moved too a little while ago. Oh, Simply Secular Dave. That's right. Yeah, especially for the job that you have, Dave. You gotta have worker protections for that kind of stuff, for what you're doing. Yeah, union pulled out of another deal in mobile because of the union deal in Birmingham. Yeah, that's it. Is that there has to be and that's why it's so important to do the big push and to get as many unions into Amazon in warehouses as possible, so it becomes normal. Strict or effing strict. Here we go. So B worked in an Amazon warehouse, so he speaks from personal experience. They stuck to a strict guideline, like that woman said. Yeah. And I've heard also, I didn't share the whole article. Once again, links are in the description. That the algorithm, so they'll track your work productivity, where you are in the warehouse, and if you don't do well, then the algorithm will write you up. The algorithm will get you into trouble. But it never takes 15 minutes to get to the break room. There you go. I imagine each warehouse is different, but all right, maybe 5 minutes from the opposite end of the building. So if you're taking a 15-minute break, let's say it takes 5 minutes to walk in, you get 5-minute break, and then you get back in 5 minutes. Not a lot of time. Well, the thing, the cops having a union is perfectly fine, right? And that union, if there was a union you wanted to get rid of, if there was a union you wanted to weaken, it would be the cop union. That's what union you'd want to break right there. Oh, jeez. All right. So I'm going to switch over to what's the difference. Oh, what time is it? All right. So once again, I'm doing an open room after the show today. If you want to pop in, the StreamYard link is in the description. So if you want to pop in at 10, I'm going to be ending the show at 9:55. I think we're on target for the time. See, that's what I really like. I like being on time. When I was doing stand-up, I liked being right on my time, not ending too shortly, not ending going over. I like being on time. So I think we're on mark for ending at 9:55 and then doing the open room at 10 o'clock. And like I said, anyone can pop in if they want to, and we'll just talk till we're done talking. Another bit of news before we compare Joe Biden's press conference to Citizen Trump's press conferences. I know Rage is doing a show today at noontime, so I thought I would just throw that in too. All right. Well, my dad was in a union too, Jesse Beer. My dad was in the electrical, I think the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. We're doing the open room at 10 a.m. right after the show, James Henry. We're doing the open room right after the show. I'm thinking that since people are already here, if they want to get together, then we can obviously talk about whatever we want, whatever you guys want to talk about, to tell you the truth. Secular Dave was on the open room, not yesterday, but the day before. And we just chatted for like an hour about a range of different topics. So once again, the link to the backstage for the open room is in the description down there, everyone. That being said, what are the differences between Joe Biden's press conferences and Mr. Trump's press conferences? I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look.
One last thing before we go tonight. Every president is different. Every president comes to office with their own style and personality, but there's something about having survived the last 4 years that makes the contrast a bit more vivid. It was striking watching the president's news conference today, his first of what we in the media enjoy calling a formal news conference. It was striking enough to give our producers the idea to contrast Biden's first news conference with his predecessor's first.
The other thing we're doing, I might add, am I giving you too long an answer? Because if you don't want the detail,
I don't want to be one of these guys that say, yes, here's what we're going to do.
So I guess we lost sound there for a minute. We lost sound, but I'm going to try to rewind it a bit. I take it everyone can hear me right now. Hopefully you can hear me. Am I talking and you can hear me? Now there's sound. Okay, so I'm going to rewind it a bit and then continue.
In a mess.
200 million shots in 100 days. I know it's ambitious.
We've begun a nationwide effort to remove criminal aliens, gang members, drug dealers.
I guess I should be flattered. People are coming because I'm the nice guy.
And the wall is going to be a great wall.
The other thing we're doing, I might add, am I giving you too long an answer? Because if you don't want the detail,
I don't want to be one of these guys that say, yes, here's what we're going to do. I don't have to do that.
I will commit to transparency.
The press, honestly, is out of control. The level of dishonesty is out of control.
I've been hired to solve problems, not create division.
Russia is a ruse. I have nothing to do with Russia.
I'm a fairly practical guy. I want to get things done.
There's zero chaos. We are running, this is a fine-tuned machine.
My predecessor. Oh, God, I miss it.
Let's just agree to call it a contrast in style, bearing, and content to take us off the air tonight.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel.
Joe Biden. I'm not a big fan of Joe Biden, right? I don't think he would have been elected if it wasn't for COVID-19. And this isn't just me saying that. I heard on the 538 podcast too, a bunch of other, people far smarter than I am like, yeah, Joe Biden would not be president right now if it wasn't for COVID-19. And Trump's incredible incompetency in handling the crisis. That all being said, the idea that Joe Biden loves calling himself a problem solver, that does warm my heart. That does warm my heart. I'm here to solve problems. As against to the other guy who's like, I don't need to tell you what the plan is, because we all know he didn't have a plan. He did not have a plan. All right. So that was a very nice comparison between the two different personalities of our current president and the other guy. That's now gone. All right. What's the last story? Marijuana. New York State. Here it is. New York, finally, after 3 years, on verge of legalizing marijuana. A compromise is now circulating that would establish a market, but also allow growing at home. Woohoo! New York. Let's look. So after several years of failed political wrangling, New York is on the cusp of the cup of legalizing the recreational sale and consumption of marijuana. At a press conference Wednesday, Governor Andrew Cuomo, I know we all are used to hearing and reading Governor Andrew Cuomo and thinking, oh, what's the new scandal is this guy in now? But this is actually a non-scandal story about that has Andrew Cuomo in it. Cuomo announced that an agreement was close and that lawmakers were reviewing the final details. The bill may be ready to be voted on as early as next week. The text of the bill is not made public yet, but some of the details has been making its way out to New York media centers. Marijuana Moment compiled all these details together. If its summary is accurate, then there's been some solid improvements over earlier versions of the legislation. Cuomo has been circulating his own legalization proposal that would have completely forbid New Yorkers from growing their own, even for medical purposes. The draft now circulating would let New Yorkers grow their own weed. They do that in Maine too. I believe you can have 6 plants in Maine. Growers will be able to grow their own weed, 6 plants at a time for their own use, but only 3 which could be matured. Households with more than 1 adult can grow a maximum of 12 plants. Municipalities would be barred from banning people from growing their own, but they could establish restrictions. Let's see, what's really interesting here. So, if the bill stays intact, it'll be an improvement over New Jersey's recent legalization. New Jersey does not permit its citizens to grow their own marijuana. They have to purchase it from licensed dealers, who then, of course, have to pay a direct cut. They have to direct cut to the state via taxes. I want to jump down to the last paragraph here. Licensed retail shops aren't scheduled to begin opening under the current proposal until December 22nd, 2022. Marijuana products will be taxed at 9%, and then an additional 4% tax will apply. That's actually lower than some other states that have already implemented retail sales, but there will be an additional taxes in other products such as edibles and concentrates. Why would you want to overtax my Little Debbie pot brownie? That's wrong. Let's see. Police will be able to use the smell of cannabis as evidence of a suspect that somebody may be impaired while driving, but not justify searching a vehicle. Here's interesting. The proposal will be expand what qualifies as a medical marijuana user, blah, blah, blah. Existing marijuana shops will be allowed to open additional shops, including non-medical retail stores. And the most important is that the legislation will be seeing continued decline in marijuana arrests. Misdemeanor marijuana arrests in New York City have been declining since 2021. And so all round good news in New York with marijuana. And I believe that New York State will also open cafes too. Let me check a look at that, because I believe there's a bit in here about, yes, let's see. New York's bill will, this is the second paragraph, New York's bill will let cities opt out of allowing retailers, but it will also allow citizens to overrule such bans via ballot initiatives. The law will also permit social consumption sites, cafes, where you can enjoy a little weed. So New York State will be able, it's going to be little cafes where you can have your marijuana. How awesome is that? How awesome is that? Good news from New York City, from New York State. Well, from what I understand, 6 plants are not enough. Yeah, Dr. Mordecai. I wonder if the weed dispensaries in America get taxed by the underworld. I don't know. I know that they do get taxed by the government. There's no doubt about it. We went over the other day that Colorado gets $20 million a month from marijuana taxes. And the reparation plan from Evanston, Illinois is being funded from marijuana sales too. So everything is coming out very positive regarding marijuana. All right. Let's put a bow on this, right? Let's put a bow on this. We're going to do the final funny. That sounds rather terminal.
I'm in the bedroom. What's the matter? Okay, I'll be there in a minute. I just need to put my socks on first.
It's good to end it with a cat. All right, everyone, doing the after party, after show, whatever. If you want to show up, you can show up. Do I still have it? Do I still have the link saved? And can I throw the link here? Maybe I can. Yes. So I just threw in the chat the link to the after party if you want to actually participate, if you want to be on with me. So you just click that link. Hey, Ian Davenport, cheers. So if you want to show up, if you want to be on the show, then just click that link in like a few minutes. I'm going to take a break for 5 minutes, stretch my legs, and I'll be back on. And if people show up, that's great. If they don't, that's fine. I'll just talk into the void for a few minutes before signaling off. That being said, we're going to do the whole crazy thing over again on Monday, 9 a.m. Take care, everyone.